So I would like to welcome my next guest. I think you're number 9 of the podcast list. And this is a very special lady. This is a lady that I met many years ago when I was still married, and the kids were young. And Sonja used to own a hairdressers in my local town, and it was a very flashy up and coming hairdressers. It was the cool place to be, so I gravitated towards there. And not only was Sonja my hairdresser, but she was also my mentor, and my guide, and somebody that really helped me to emotionally and spiritually grow. And she has such a connection and an intuition with the spiritual side, has a huge amount of wealth of knowledge, but also can read people very, very well. She's a very intuitive, empathic person, and really helped me to grow. And she's the person responsible for all my coloured hair in the days gone by. I was the lady with the purple and the pink hair. And I totally trusted Sonja in that growth. She said, no, this is the energy that you need. This is what you need to transmit to the world. It's going to help you grow. I trusted that process. And I remember walking through the front door with my first purple fringe, and my son Sam burst into tears. He said, I don't like it, Mummy. But they just accepted it, and I then became the cool mum for a few years until I didn't need the colour anymore. So I would like to welcome to the stage Sonja Johanna, who now doesn't live in the UK, has now moved to Austria. This is your home country, isn't it?
Yes, it is, absolutely. I was born there.
Yeah. Yeah, so full circle, coming back home, and she's going to talk today about her marriages. And I say marriages because she's had 3. And so we thought this would be a great podcast to be able to talk about what many relationships can do for us and what we learn from them. So we're going to talk about it from her experience, but also look at it on a spiritual level too, for those that are interested. Anyway, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here, Debbie. It's an honor, and I'm looking forward to sharing my experiences of my 3 marriages and what I've learned from that, and I've grown, and how I recognized a lot about my own patterns and thoughts and belief system that I was unaware of. So a little bit about me. Obviously born in Austria. I lost my mum when I was 5 years old. So I had 2 sisters. We were 4, 5, and 6, and that left a big mark in my life, and also that of my sister and my dad. And what happened from that time on, my dad withdrew and closed down. He had to cope with 3 little girls, and he really didn't talk about my mum, which was quite a shame, because I would have loved to hear about her, but it was his way of coping. So I grew up, did my schooling. I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be a hairdresser, age 10. And I started my apprentice when I was 14. And when I started my apprentice, I was aware that I could, when I washed people's hair, that I could ease off a migraine or any tension. And I just knew how to do it. I had no idea why, I just did it. And people said, oh, you need to do something with your hands, Sonja. And I was 14, no idea what they're talking about, no idea about spirituality, energies, anything like that. I just thought, yeah, very nice. And so I did my apprenticeship in Austria. And when I was 18, I had a very strong calling to leave, to go to Switzerland. And it just popped into my head. I won't sort of bore you with the story. This is another lifetime back. But I decided to go to Switzerland. Within 2 weeks, I met somebody that helped me to go into Switzerland. So just before I turned 19, I was in Switzerland and was working there as a hairdresser. And in Switzerland, just to give you a background, I also got 4 children. So I had my 2 boys, which I wasn't married to the dads. It's 2 dads. So I'm just giving you a little bit to sort of understand. And the first man, my oldest son, he was older. And for me, I just was attracted to him. I liked him. He gave me attention and so forth. And the second man that I had my second son with, he was my age, pretty much. To cut a long story short, I met my first husband-to-be, which is an Englishman. That's how I came to England, on a holiday where I went with my 2 boys. So they were 3.5, and Emmanuel was only small then. He was about a few months old, about 7 months old. I met him on holiday in Cyprus, and again, that was it was quite an interesting experiences. We arrived late at night, and we woke him up. I had no idea that he was next to us, and he was very British. He called up at 1:30 in the night and told us that he had to go on a safari trip and we should be quiet. And we were just young girls, I was 25 at the time, giggling, and my friend was with me with her son, and we were unaware that we would disturb anybody. So he later, the next morning, when he saw us, he apologized that he was so rude on the phone, and we just got chatting and so forth, and we exchanged numbers, and so we had a relationship going backwards, forwards from Switzerland to England for about a year, and then he asked me to come and live with him, and that was my first big step, actually moving with my two boys to England. That's how I actually arrived there. And it was in the middle of the night with two little boys, lots of baggage, and I arrived there. So he was very attentive. I arrived in November. It was very cold, very grey, very British weather, and I didn't know anybody. And I tried to reach out because in Austria we're very chatty, we're very open, we socialize a lot, we talk to people. And British people at the time were quite reserved. They didn't really reach out. They didn't really invite you for a cup of coffee. They said, "Hi, I'm friendly, I'm nice and sweet and lovely," and that's what they are really. And I love British people, but at the time it was very difficult for me to get close to somebody. And I actually felt quite depressive. I really, because I had left Switzerland, my roots were cut. I tried to settle. I only had my husband. He worked. He wouldn't allow me to work. He only wanted me to look after my boys. So he really controlled me from the very beginning. And to say also, he was 24 years older than me. And for me, now in hindsight, I can see he was a father replacement because my father ignored me when my mum had died, and he obviously cut off, and this man gave me attention. So there obviously you can see little patterns rising, which I was unaware of because obviously gave me attention. The boys of the fathers had ignored me and so forth. And that was correct at the time. So I was there. He didn't pay me any money. I had to use all my savings. And I felt, well, actually, I've come over, made this big commitment, and he needs to make a commitment to me now and to marry me. So I feel some sort of safety, security, which we did. 2 years later, we married. And it was his happiest day. There was me, this young woman he had from previous marriage, 3 children. They were all my age. The 2 sons were older than me, 2 years and 1 year, and the daughter was a year younger. I felt quite odd. It was really a strange thing. At some point, on one level, you realize, well, it's all playing into your life's path. You don't realize it consciously at the time, but in hindsight, you can see why. And we sort of plodded along. He then allowed me in 2004 to work a little bit. I started working in Nailsworth in a debonair. It was a salon. Only an afternoon I was allowed. And that's when I started living again. I felt alive because I was outgoing. I loved people and I wanted to earn some money myself because, he was very controlling, as I said. And he also was very unpleasant to my younger son. And, in hindsight now, I didn't have the strength or the confidence at all. He was bullying my son and he was physically abusing him, and I should have actually reported him, but I didn't have the courage. I was in a foreign country. I felt quite controlled by him and I was unaware of it. I also started my spiritual journey in England. In Switzerland already done some courses, but I continued my spiritual journey with yoga and with a Touch for Health, which is foundation kinesiology and spiritual healing. So I started my journey there, which helped me to settle, to give me balance. And I met people, I made friends. My boys went to school, the older one. I started making some friendship, which was really good for me. I sort of start feeling at home. And but as this marriage went on, you could see the age gap because I was active. I wanted to go on a bike ride, and he just on a Sunday wanted to sleep. He wanted to sleep on a sofa. There he is, 40 something, almost 50, and me actually having the energy and wanting to do something with my boys. And more, it got the gap between us became apparent of the age. But he was very controlling on top of that. So if I wanted to get away at a weekend to see a friend, I had a friend in Derby. Every single time I went, that was every 3-4 months, he would have a migraine. So I would feel sorry that I would stay back. But I didn't feel sorry. I decided to go. So this continued for a while, and then I wanted to become self-employed. I had a possibility to work in a hotel, self-employed, and it was a local hotel, Stonehouse Court Hotel, and the manager was very keen. I set up a business plan, and as I did all of this, I was really excited. I wanted to do something. I always wanted to have my own salon, and they gave me the opportunity. And this one evening, his son was that younger son who was really a pleasant young guy. And he said to him, well, if she works there, I won't see her the weekend. She won't have any time, and she's meant to look after me. And as I heard that, I was really taken aback because he had different plans than I had. He wasn't on my side at all. He just wanted me for himself, not for the world. And I'm a people's person. I like to be with people. So it really hit me. It was like a weight on my heart. And I sat with it because I did a lot of meditation at the time. I also did a lot of channeling that came in. My spirit guides came closer to me. They started using my body. And I was doing meditation pretty much every evening to connect more and get more wisdom coming in and information. And as I sat there, they showed me a vision. And it was like a picture frame. And they showed me two pathways, one going this way, one going that way. And they said, you're not compatible with him. You both need to go separate ways. And that was quite something because he was quite an aggressive man and he would harm people. He would say, if this person doesn't do it, then I will do so and so to this. And I was afraid because my dad was always very loud. He used to shout at us and sometimes hit us. So you can imagine this younger self in me, the little girl inside me, was responding. And so I one night sat there and was really sad. My mum came in from spirit because obviously she passed away when I was 5 and used to feel it from time to time. And she said to me, Sonja, leave him his house. You will get another house, because we had meanwhile purchased the house together and I put money in there. And that was quite something. And then having the courage to tell him that was a real big worrying thing because my solar plexus was tightening up. And, I was really scared. What would he do? Because he had this quite a violent streak to him. And then I had the courage to tell him, and he didn't want to know. He just ignored it that I even said it. As he realized that I was starting to looking for flats and everything, and I didn't have the feelings for him, he became really nasty. He wanted me to leave the house. He didn't want to give anything. There's me, 2 boys, they're small. And he just was very egotistical. He was afraid that he would lose another house, which he'd done with his first wife. So I was looking for months and months, no end. And a very good friend of mine came for Christmas to spend Christmas with us. I was so glad because this man, I didn't know how to handle him. He was a sort of a time bomb that was ticking time bomb that was coming, on a big explosion. So she made that easy. And in February, finally, I found the flat where I moved in. And I never forget, I had lovely friends. They all came and helped me on the day I moved. And I took everything. And when I did my last piece of furniture that I moved out, I heard him on the phone to like a walking group, not gambling group. It's a walking group, Ramblers. That's right. And he was saying, yes, my wife is leaving me today, and it's not very nice, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'm like, oh my God, you want people to feel sorry. And I left, and all the friends were there helping me, clearing the new flat out and everything. And I moved to Stonehouse, so from East Lincoln to Stonehouse, and I was so happy. It was like I had a second lifetime, and a lifeline, and my life was starting because he'd suppressed me so much and controlled me that my spiritual side got flattened. Everything that was good, my light, my bubbliness, my openness, he squashed it. And it was like, wow, I can shine, and it was the happiest day of my life when I left him. And so there we were in this 2-bedroom flat, my boys there and and myself, and they had to share a room. And then Nick, my older one, he went to secondary school already, and the younger one was still at primary school. And I mean, the boys have gone through an awful lot because such a domineering human being, as their stepdad, and they were relieved. And without me knowing, my then second husband didn't live far. He was literally, there was this sort of, it was like an enclosed, it's called, it's a close basically of all those houses where I was number 15 and he was number 11. And I had no idea when I moved in February, it was his birthday. So the 11th of February, which is really weird in hindsight, you look at that. And his then still partner was very ill and still was alive. She had cancer, unfortunately, and he nursed her from at home, which was just across from me. And I didn't know any of that. I just wanted to settle, I was happy. And there was me going jogging every day, and his partner died in May. I had no idea about that, passed away. I just really lived my life, tried to work. I worked from at home, was self-employed to build up clients, because my plan was to have my own business. My plan was to have my own salon, and that was always my goal. And so I knew if I built up the people, I would have some sort of stability that I could then find a place where I could do this. And in September, this very good friend of mine, Colette, and me, we went to a conference from the Kinesiology Federation back to Germany. And we traveled because we did a bit of a show there, which I've never done before. And since I acted, and we prepared that for 3 days. And it was a real success. When I came back, I had a note from the dad of my girls now, so which is the second husband to come, Robin, and he had put a note through because he had been watching me going jogging in the morning and had no idea that anybody was observing what I was doing, because I was in my own world, just happy to be free from all the misery that I had. And I was young, I was, mid 30, 35. It was brilliant. And I hadn't even noticed that he put a notice through that he wanted a cup of coffee with me. So I went shopping to IKEA with two friends, and I got a big, like a sort of, I got some piece of furniture which you can use for your shoes to get your shoes sorted, and it was all in flat pack. And I got it in with my friends. When I arrived home, I couldn't get it up the stairs. So I know I can ask this guy across. So I went over there, rang the bell, very naughty and open as I am and bubbly, and said, "Excuse me, I just bought this furniture. Would you be able to help me?" And he was like, sort of smiling, thinking I'd seen his letter. And then he comes along and helps me. And then he looks around, and I hadn't cleaned up at all. There was ironing to be done and whatever. And I thought, oh my God, he's seen everything. It looks horrible. So he came in, he was very polite, and he told me about the letter. And I said, oh yes, that would be lovely. So I think the very next day I went over to have a cup of coffee, and I could see he clearly fancied me. But I had a vision, a dream, where Spirit had shown me somebody that I saw on the conference, and who was blonde, and he was blue-eyed. And I spoke to this guy, I'd seen him in Germany, and I actually thought, oh my God, Colette, I dreamt of this guy, and there he is. And this guy was already with somebody, so he couldn't, obviously, some sort of relationship. And he was very polite and really kind. So I chatted with Robin, being my husband to be, and I told him at the very beginning, I said, Robin, I had this dream and I saw this guy. He had blue eyes. You've got blue eyes. I'm not sure if you this guy or this guy, but I don't want you to be hurt in any way. And, I can clearly see you are interested. No, that's absolutely no problem. He was very polite and really lovely. And because I'd
His
always...
fingers crossed behind his back.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely.
It's me.
Yes, absolutely. And because I've always got pregnant so fast before and with the boys, I made sure this time I would have contraception. I had the coil fitted. I was safe. And guess what? Within 2 weeks with Robin, I was pregnant with my oldest daughter now, Dahlia, despite the coil and despite everything. And I thought, oh my God, out of all those people who want to have children and want to be pregnant, there she is. And I didn't want any more kids because I want to have my own business. So I already set up my mind. And there's this lovely man, Robin, dad of the girls, who said, and I told him what happened, and he was really pleased because obviously he hadn't had children beforehand. And he said, look, I'm 100% behind you. Whatever you decide, it's going to be okay. And I thought, I've never had that. Somebody who really supports me, who really honors me and respects me. And I had a whole week to think about it, because I knew as a woman, you have to start all over again. Now you got your freedom. You're going to have a baby. That's that. So I decided for this child because I thought she wants to come, or I felt it was a girl, and it's important. So we did that, and out of honor. So I was pregnant end of September, beginning of October, and out of courtesy and manner, because he was very much a person of manner and respect and well educated. He basically asked me to marry him in June, but my instinct here, my heart, didn't want to marry, because it wasn't something I wanted to do again, because I was still in a marriage with the first one and going through divorce then. And so my heart said no, but my head thought, oh, this is such a nice man. He's so good to my boys, and this is the right thing to do, and you better do that, and da 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 da. And that's quite important, because our heart is always correct. It knows something that we don't know. And at the time, I thought, no, Sonja, you don't know anything. This is a really good man, and so forth. But obviously, you don't know somebody within 2 weeks. You don't know their character. You don't know, are you matching? And, there it is. Dahlia comes along on a very special date, the 7th of the 7th, 2007. And I gave birth at home, which I did with all my children except my oldest. And it was, it was a tough birth. It was painful, but she was born at home in Robin's house, then just across. We all moved there as well while I was pregnant, and the cats and everything. We had cats meanwhile for the boys, so we were a whole family. So on the outside we were perfect, and he then said he would support me with my dream in building my own business, which again I've never had that. No support from my dad, no support from the first husband. Now I have somebody with support, so really positive, really good. So as I was going through pregnancy, about 4 weeks before I was giving birth, we walked across in Stonehouse and I saw this building, and it was for rent. And I said to Robin, have a look, this would be amazing as a hairdressing salon. So we called up, we went in there, we had a look, I asked another friend who was also called Debbie to come along and to have a look, because everybody, I'd like to have some inputs from people, and I really liked it. And within 3 days after Dahlia was born, I signed a contract for lease. So basically, there's me just having had a baby. The landlord came along and we signed a 3-year contract lease for this place to be opened in November. And there's me then in August, we started getting all the stuff out that was in there. Old radiators, storage radiators and all this sort of stuff, and gravel, and we had to do a lot of work. And there's me just having had a baby and working my socks off to get this done. And my goal, and it was called Feel Good Factor, because I felt this was the correct name where I could combine the hair, beauty and health treatments. So that was all in one shelf. And we opened the 23rd of November, and we had 2-3 people employed, and and he helped me. I was part of his business. He had a limited company, so we put it under limited company, Feel Good Factor. So it all seemed to work, but it was hard work. And we plodded along, the boys, it all worked on the outside really well. And then I felt that Dahlia, who was a very strong young woman from the moment she was born, she needed to have a brother or sister. So I said to Robin, I think because the boys are a lot older, 14 and 11 years older, they will go off to their own thing. There won't be anybody around. So he agreed. Within a week, I was pregnant. Okay. So it's like, just think about that. And she was the first one that I planned. So my last child was the only one that got planned. So there we are, doing all this with the salon, to have a lady in the salon to take over. She nearly wrecked my business while I giving birth and so forth. Thank God a customer that I met on the road said, Sonja, you need to come back. This lady is wrecking your salon. She's really spreading lots of evil stuff about you and so forth. So I had to cut my time off with Yasmin, which I love to have. She was the first one that was calm. I also need to say that throughout her pregnancy, I went to a healer each month to really clear any blockages and stuff that she may have picked up from myself. And I realized this made a massive difference, because she was a happy baby. Out of all of them, she was really content. She was an angel baby or a textbook baby. So here we go. And then Yasmin I went on a big show with 2 friends. A friend of mine came into business with me, and she had a product range, aromatherapy product, which she created, and she wanted to be able to sell it to the whole market. So we helped her, and we went to this big show in London, this organic fair. And there was this guy that watched us, and he said he could help us because he knows all the people, how we could get into the wholesalers and so forth. And the girl said to me, he likes you, he fancies you. I said, no, I don't think I think that, because I wasn't looking, I wasn't interested in anybody. So cut a long story short, we met within 3-4 weeks after this show. And after we had a meeting at Stonehouse Court Hotel, where he clearly was interested in me, and I told him, look, I'm married, I have 4 children, I'm not interested in anything like that. When he dropped me off at my shop and I saw a client afterwards for treatment, something changed. So my heart chakra went, it was like 4 meters radiating out there. And I thought, oh my God, like somebody put the headlights on in a car. And I thought, what just happened? And I could only feel love. And I thought, what is this? So I was so confused that I couldn't have the same love for my husband, who I had the 2 girls with, and he looked after the boys like his own. And I felt really wrong. I couldn't talk to him because his previous partner of 20 years had an affair while they were together. So he was sort of really struggling from that. And you were thinking I would have an affair, which I didn't. So I went to see somebody in Cheltenham that was recommended, who did cards and was spiritual. And she explained to me that this was my twin soul. And it happened very rarely. And they either are ready, that they are together with you going on the path, or they're catalyst for you to move forward. And it took me from April when I met this guy till end of August, so 4 months, every night I cried because I just felt so torn apart. I could feel everything from this twin soul. We emailed, so we didn't really text, we emailed, and I could feel what he was feeling, what was going on, and it was very odd. And I felt like a fraud towards my husband because, I didn't do anything. I didn't kiss him, I didn't touch him or so, but I felt really like a fraud and like I was doing something wrong. So suddenly Spirit was saying to me, I need to finish the relationship with my husband, and he was, oh my God, you need to do it tonight. And I thought, oh my God, 31st of August, you need to go on a walk. And it's like somebody's pushing you from the back and telling you to do it. It was like this strong energy says, go, Sonja. So I did. And we're walking along. Robin is unaware what's happening. I don't feel good at all. I feel really bad. And I'm telling him that I don't have the same love for him and I don't want to be in this relationship. And his world broke apart. And I felt terrible. I felt so terrible. And this was the second darkest moment of my life after, the dad of Nick left me and the sort of things. It was really, and my mum, obviously. So all those sort of people that had left me. And Robin wanted to take his life. I said, please don't do that. You've got two girls that love you. Life will move on. You'll find somebody that suits you better than me. Because really, we didn't fit. He was very intellectual and I was spiritual. So even though on the outside we look perfect, but actually on basic things we weren't matching. But he is a really good man and I'm still friends with him. So I'm honoring him an awful lot because he's done great job on my boys and there wouldn't be the man there today without him. So he's an amazing and also a good dad. Even my girls will tell you otherwise now. But anyhow, so I asked the angels, can you please find him somebody very shortly? And within 2 months, he found the woman he's married to now. So here we go. Spirit is doing his job, invisibly working with the threads, and I have no idea. So it took me a while to actually trust anybody. This obviously was a twin soul. This just went sour. That didn't work out. That's another story. He's a very wealthy man. So was the dad of my first son, super wealthy man. And I'm going to write a book about that because I think sometimes those things need to go out that more people know about what's happening and they might have to reflect upon themselves what they did wrong. Anyhow, so there's me. I had a relationship with somebody in between. 2014 didn't work out. I was glad when I was over. And in 2015, I met a man online and connected with him. And when I met him, I thought, this is the man. It was just an amazing feeling. We'd arranged that he comes to my house and we go to Cheltenham to have a nice meal. And my son opened the door because he'd gone out, my oldest son. And as he opened the door and I saw him, this wonderful energy traveled between us. It was like this really absolute love that traveled. And I'd never experienced anything like that before. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to spend the whole evening with him. This is amazing. So he brought 2 cupcakes for my girls. And I thought that was really sweet. So obviously off we go. So we're walking to the car. It was early, half an hour. And we're chatting and we both had done work on our previous relationship. He had been married twice. I've been married twice. We looked at our mistakes and what has happened and so forth. And I was on my own. He was on his own. So we're talking there, sitting in the car. And just before we drive off, he puts his glasses on to drive and he looks over to me and says, this might sound strange, but you're the woman that I'm going to marry. And I looked at him and said, I know. And it was such a moment and my soul knew. It wasn't my head answering, it was my soul. And we went off. We had the most amazing in Hotel du Vin in Cheltenham, and we had this most amazing evening. And we had so many similarities. I trusted him with my life. So there's me thinking, oh my goodness, Sonja. And then he gave me a beautiful book from Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, which really I hadn't seen. So that really meant an awful lot. So there was lots of personal touches. So he brought me home at 2:00 and he went back off to Bath where he used to live. And so my son, who used to work in the hotel industry, he was still awake. I said, Emmanuel, guess what just happened? And he looked at me smiling, thinking, oh dear. And he said, oh yes, good for you, mum. It's like the 20-year-old thinking, oh, what is she on now? And so here we go, me completely happy. And so this happened super fast. He came into my life and he, within 6 weeks, moved into my house, even though he had his own flat. And everything was fast. And because of my upbringing, my stepmom came 2 years after my mum died. She was a very weak woman, so to say. She used to do everything that her husband wanted. And my mum, my real mum, who passed away, was a strong woman, but I hadn't experienced that. I didn't have that example set in front of me. And so even though I didn't want him to be around me, and he was then in the shop, so my third husband, he decided to then, because he had finished his job, he got a payout, and he needed new direction. So he just wanted to be part of my life. And he liked that I had my own business and there were people working there and so forth. And he knew he had good manners and so forth. So he came into this business, and we had a coffee machine there, a professional one. So he learned to be a barista and to talk to the clients and wash hair and whatever have you. So he had something to do. He also then, through myself, because I had studied Bowen technique and I did some work on him, it helped his back. He then trained in that and did some massage training too. So he became really good at that. So that all looked amazing. We married in 2017, and interestingly, in 2016 we went to Austria the first time, where he then probably asked me with a ring to marry him. And I had a heaviness on here, and I didn't know, why would I have a heaviness when I'd met him in 2015, and I knew that he was the one that I married, but why did I have a heaviness? And now again, my head said, no, Sonja, you felt that should be okay. Ignore that. It's not important. But my heart knew something already, which I had no idea about. So we married, amazing time, everything special. Everybody thought we were the couple. He was good looking, he was tall, he was black, he was gorgeous. There's me, tall, blonde. And from the outside, amazing. And bit by bit, he came more into the shop and used to be 24/7 around me. And it was too much for me. And when I had the courage to mention, said, look, Paul, this is too much for me, he got really offended, because he had his own issues from childhood, being black, and there were, I think, 6 children, and his dad wasn't the best of man, and went somewhere else as well. And so that he had a chip on his shoulder, being the oldest, and his mum was working very hard and had passed away. Both parents had passed, but he felt that I pushed him out. He felt rejected, so his childhood wounds came in. And unaware, both of us are unaware of our childhood wounds, acting out, and bit by bit the eating away. And then in 2020, when we had the lockdown, so we had Corona, every shop had to close down. And so did we on the 23rd of March. And I was actually, when I was home, I was glad we were closed, because I hadn't realized this with this having your own shop, having people that work for you. And we had changed the business model. Everybody was working self-employed, and you had to always carry them. You had to carry your own children. You also had to carry the people that are working for you, because they had their confidence issues. And you have to carry your husband, who hasn't found his place in the world. So there's me carrying all the things. And I had no idea that I would have had a burnout if we hadn't had the lockdown. So there suddenly I'm thinking, oh my goodness, you're a therapist yourself. You don't even notice how bad is that. So I was grateful, because I had to do homeschooling. And on April the 13th, my niece from Austria had a birthday, and I phoned her on WhatsApp. And there she was, my sister was there, her other sister, the 3 beautiful ladies, beautiful background scenery, the mountains, lovely breakfast, because my sister's a baker confectionist. She loves good food, and it's like the best 5-star hotel that you can imagine. And there it is. And suddenly, as we're talking, I wish them happy birthday, and I see them all smiling. This energy from the mountain goes, it's like it's pulling me. You have to go to Austria, you need to come home. And I just thought, my goodness, what just happened? And I was so taken aback. So after the phone call, I say to my husband, I say, this just happened. What do you think? He said, well, we could afford to do that because obviously he had private pension, and I had money from the dad for the girls' maintenance money and so forth, and some savings. And we could do that. So I spoke to my 2 girls, and they then said, Mum, are you serious? I said, yes. And then they cried. So I thought, no, if they don't want to go to Austria, I wouldn't do that. So they went to bed. The very next morning, they get up and say, Mum, when are we going? And I'm thinking, what? Do you mean that? Yes, when are we going? I thought, well, we just have lockdown, so we can't do much. But, I'm thinking of September that you start school there. So cut a long story short, there's me preparing all of that, going to Austria, arriving. I think this is amazing. Paul thinks in his head, great, she's now there for me. The shop is away, the attention of the people, she's mine. Obviously, I'm unaware of that. I'm unaware that I suddenly have to deal with all my stuff from childhood, which I had thought as a therapist, I've cured it all. I've done this therapy, I've done that training, and that therapist has seen me, and I've done this crying about the loss of my mum. I've been over it 100 times. And suddenly everything hits me and I'm going into depression. And it's literally the first 1.5 years was quite tough. So within the first year, then Paul, my husband, who we were very close, we always promised we would talk about everything, gets more recluse, and closes down. And he also closes off for my girls because they really liked him, especially the younger one. The older one pushed her because she was 13 and with the hormones and not taking everything as he says. And she's a strong character, and it's a good thing. She always has been a strong character. And so he started to really do stuff that wasn't very pleasant, and he used to really be quite rude to me. And my daughter stood there and defended me. And then he was calling her rude names, really, words like bitch and things like that, to a 13-year-old. He's this tall man and she's a small girl. That really shook her. And she said to me, Mum, I can't deal with this anymore. This man has to go. So there you are. This was the man of your dream. You thought, his soulmate that you met, third husband, and there's your daughter. And you feel that. And 2 more events happened that were quite scary. The third one was with a knife. And that really completely shook me in the core of my being. And thank God I have a sister, because she said, Sonja, if a man does something like that, then he doesn't know what he wants. He needs to find himself. She said, ask him what he wants. Why doesn't he go back to England and thinks about what he wants? Because he seems to be just following you. He doesn't have his own path. So when I went back after this horrible thing that happened, I sort of suggested that to him, and he thought I just wanted to get rid of him. That was his thought. But I didn't think that. And that's what I realized later than when I started other stuff, that men and women with language, they're 2 different pair of shoes. They understand word by word. We're trying to put the feeling across. We don't mean that word specifically. We mean the energy of that. So he left finally in mid-June. And in July 21, I went over to England, and there he announced to me that he finished a relationship, which really took me quite by, it was very ice cold. It was horrible. So there's me now, having to dealt with all my life with those 3 key relationships. And what was quite amazing, in June when he left, I saw online, I had a newsletter from a guy called Robert Betz. He's German. British people wouldn't know him, but he's done 25 years in psychotherapy and developed his own program, how you can clear all those old patterns, those inner child wounds, and also things, belief system, and also your relationship issue with your mom and dad, and all the unresolved stuff with your brothers and sisters. So I did this 10-week course online, which really was like, oh my goodness. And I could see literally everything that had gone wrong in my life with all the relationships. And I suddenly had the tools to look at it, and it was almost like highlighting what went wrong and getting the answers, because I couldn't understand why it all had gone pear-shaped. So this was like a revolution, because I'd done a lot of training with different modalities and people I've spoken to, but I could never get to the bottom of things, and I really wanted that. So there's me doing that. And then I signed up to become a therapist, which was a 2-year training. And that really got me to very deep places where I really looked at relationships completely new, because it all starts with ourselves. And that helped me an awful lot, because from that on, I finished end of last year. I finished the training, also not beginning of last year. I finished the training, so in 23, and then I allowed myself to meet people, and it was really extraordinary. And different dates that I went, that each spirit was showing me things about my life. So with each person that came into my life, for example, this one guy came into my life. I met him in February last year, and on the first evening, he tells me that he lost his girlfriend that he loved. She had 3 children. And I thought, oh my goodness. And as he's telling me this whole story, I can feel his girlfriend in spirit already there, wanting to talk to me. And as he gives me a kiss, I'm thinking, no, this is completely wrong. They're still together, even though she's passed away. And when suddenly I stayed with him for a couple of months, because he still loved his girlfriend so much, he didn't let go. But what was shown to me, see him, how he suffered through the loss of his girlfriend, that I could for the first time understand my dad, what he'd gone through when he lost the love of his life, my mum. that was so extraordinary. And that she had to leave behind 3 girls. We were 3 girls as well. How she feel? So for the very first time, I'd only ever seen myself, the loss of my little one, the little son, he was 5 years of age, who'd suffered, and I couldn't understand them. I realized that it must have been super tough for my mum, who went out of her body, and for my dad. And that was a revolution, I tell you. I could make peace with my dad. This made such a profound impression and healing that I hadn't anticipated. And just for that, I met this man. So spirit sometimes brings people in just for a specific reason. Doesn't mean to say this is a relationship, but you don't get disappointed when somebody doesn't stay with you. So sometimes we need to be completely looking from a new perspective and be new, not be new, think new and be open. And then this year, so by the end of last year and this year, I'm meeting various men, and each one represents my ex-husbands. And it's like, my goodness. And and spirit presents them to me because I already decided this time I want to be completely different. Because previously sexual energy was ahead and in front, and I thought, no, I'm doing it completely different. I want to get to know the person, that I want to like them. I want to have a connection. I want to communicate with them. I want to know who they are because of all the stuff that happened in my life. So there's spirit showing me this guy who is a lawyer who lost his wife and had his big house and obviously wealthy and whatever. And he was a copy of the girl's dad. And I thought, no, this is safe. This is all in order, all how it should be, how you would want it. Oh, you have the safety net. And I said to him after 3 or 4 dates, I said to him, look, I don't think we will match. I'm too lively. I'm too bubbly for you. So I didn't say you're too boring to me because that would be rude. But I decided just to say, no, I have too much energy. You know? And he agreed. And then I'd already met somebody who had this intensity like my last husband had, who just wanted to be with me, wanted to speed things up and wanted to be fast in my life. And I thought, at the back of my Sonja, wait, take it steadily. So I pushed him away until I saw his true character. Like with my ex-husband and my last one, his true character came out with the knife. And so certainly this guy as well. So the interesting thing is people hold a lot of things they're hiding in the dark shadows that they hadn't dealt with. And in a relationship, when you are close with somebody, it opens up, your heart opens up, and so everything comes out. That also left. And I'd met a guy about the 31st of December, but because my mum had died from smoking, because she was a very strong smoker, and this guy smoked. And I didn't like that at all, because obviously smoking is death and so forth. And he was a little bit smaller than me. I thought, my ego, Sonja. So I wasn't very keen, but he was a really nice guy who met a few times and invited me to go around the lake and then to go to a magical place, a bit like Stonehenge, which is here in the Tyrol. And I'd never seen it because I'd lived here before, but I didn't know about it. And as we're going around the lake, he's asking me about each of my relationships and my marriages, the key. And as I'm talking to him, it feels like he's a therapist to me. And I'm opening up. And then I realize at the back of my heart, my shoulder blades, is really still some wounds and traumas. So I realized, oh my goodness, Sonja, you haven't digested all of those marriages and relationships and the impact and the wounds they left behind. And this was the first man in my life that really listened. That didn't just put his view in there, and I never had that before. So I just said to him, wow, I realized I need to deal with an awful lot. And then when we went to a very special place, it was the 12 disciples. So each of the stones represented 12 disciples. He said, well, it'd be interesting to see what you feel, because he knew I was spiritual. So there were 2 places, and 2 of the disciples, I just cried. I didn't know why I cried. So when I later read up about it, it said that they'd been brothers. And that was quite extraordinary. Cut a long story short, I'm now with this man, and his name is Peter, and it's really special. But I didn't allow him close to me for quite some time because of all the past bits and pieces, and we're talking an awful lot about everything, So I'm doing things completely different. Yes, I mean there's still a big path ahead of me. There's stuff that comes up, but I'm looking back now, I've really learned from all of those relationships, and I've seen my growth from this unexperienced girl that was 24, 25, met my first husband who was 24 years older, and then obviously Robin was all proper and so forth. My second husband, the dad of the girls, and my third one, who I thought was the love of my life, and we had made a soul contract and all the stuff. The 2 children, the wounded children, came in and they destroyed it all because their wounds hadn't been healed. And so I've learned an awful lot. really about relationships. And now I'm listening to my heart. So if something isn't good, I'll talk about that because there's a reason for it. So I won't ignore it anymore. And that's really my key learning. Yeah.
Wow. What an incredible story. I'm a bit bowled over. I mean, I've heard a lot of your stories, and the way that you put it all together, it all makes sense in the order that you put it now, because I've been a voyeur to those parts, some of those parts of your life. It's incredible how you've put it, that each relationship that we attract into in our adult life are always trying to help us to heal the wound from our childhood.
Yeah.
And it will be from different angles, and it will be from different viewpoints, and it will be from different experiences, but all of them are to help your mother and father wound.
Yeah.
And there's no coincidence here that you are totally on a fast track in this life. You know, it's like you have to get as much learning in as possible, and almost like, no, there's no space for me right now. I need to do this learning. Come on, I'm feeling it. I'm going to go with it. I'm going to trust my journey. And as that journey is slowing down, and coming to Austria has obviously vibrationally slowed you down, how it's allowing you that space to see what's finally right for you.
Yeah.
Because I get the sense that you as a child never had any time for you. I take it you're the firstborn.
I'm the middle. So
The
I'm the
middle.
middle, and I was the courageous one. My older sister was the serious one.
Yeah.
And they always pushed me to ask. You know, my father was quite rigid and strict. And there was, Sonja, you go and ask, because I used to have the courage. I don't know why I have the courage. I just did. And that got me into trouble too, obviously, because, you know, but I had the boldness, like my oldest daughter. She's very strong. I mean, you know, people say she's a spitting image of me, but she's more. I mean, there's just the next evolution of spirituality. This girl with age 2 and 3 got the au pairs to cry. She was so strong and so truthful and so direct, and used to say things that other people didn't dare to say age 3. You know, she is quite something. And each child has
She
been...
shares that journey with you. You know, you have that ability too. And I believe our children choose the parents. They choose the families to come in.
Definitely.
And even though, excuse the phrase, but you double bagged,
Yes.
she's still, no, I'm coming in regardless. And that just seems a very poignant reason why you came into your family, because of the strength that someone needed to hold this together.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you've been craving just someone to look after you, but look after you in a balanced way, not take from you or not lean on you. And I can see the way it's been swinging in all the men is your role has been playing out as somewhat, I just want to be looked after. My little child in me wants to be scooped up and protected. That was dangerous. And then to surrender your heart to someone who wanted to look after you, that wasn't safe either, because as a child you had to be strong.
Yeah.
And it's learning to let someone in, isn't it?
And also what was very good with the training I had, which doing the transformational therapy, you did the healing with your inner child. So you as the adult took responsibility. And that's what we all have to do, because we can't wait for somebody from the outside to save us. We actually need to have this good relationship with us as an adult, but then also with that little part of ourselves, those wounds. And we need to recognize what that wound is. It's not always obvious. And it was always... There's a German phrase, was dich trifft, betrifft. It means whatever triggers you actually is doing something to you that has there's still a point within you that isn't healed. So whatever triggers you exactly needs healing. And every time when something makes you angry or sad or whatever it is, you know, out of nowhere, when somebody says something, it doesn't matter who it is, there's this inner child that responds. And that's the part that we need to realize. Stop, breathe, don't respond, just feel what's happening here. And that really made a difference, that I didn't respond to any male attentiveness or attraction or sexual attraction. I decided, no, I'm doing this different now, because I don't want the same result because it hasn't worked out previously. So the only common denominator is me. So I have to change something here. And that's the way how I'm starting. And I'm going into a relationship. I'm not fast tracking like I used to. I'm not being overruled by somebody to take me in. I'm deciding my own speed, and I'm taking it steadier. And I believe that it's got to do with your self-worth. It's got to do with that you are important enough to take that time and you can say no. Because what often happens, we women, we feel obliged, we have to say yes, and somebody is there in his flashing car or whatever, and they might have money or whatever. That's unimportant, the money, because that's not the person. We actually need to value ourselves, love ourselves, and only with this love of ourselves, we will attract the right person to come in. Only then the frequency vibrates and will come in, and that's what I've noticed. And I'm very,
Because
very grateful.
we think we want someone to love us, and that will fill that hole. And it's giving yourself that time to really know what you love. Then you can attract someone into you, towards you. It's a very different way of approaching it, and it sounds like you're giving yourself space to listen to any alarm bells, to be able to have the space to talk them through. Slowing it down is a wonderful approach.
And we each have a different way of being. I mean, I know you had a good friend of mine also on the podcast who does astrology, Stephanie, and she looks at obviously your sun sign, the moon sign, and yourself. And when you are with a new partner, that's also quite important, because I remember her saying to me with Paul, my last husband, she said when she looked at our wedding and she looked at our dates and stuff, and she said, the only problems you have is the moon sign. He was Pisces, I'm Taurus. And she said, because you can sometimes flare up quite quick and you're very fast in making decisions, but he's slow and he takes time and he goes forever. And that's where you won't match. And that was absolutely spot on. And so I would also say, really look into what is the other partner. If you're serious with somebody, if you want something long term, check those things out, because they will have an impact. Are you matching on some levels? That is also important, because my first husband was a Leo. Forget that. Leo and Virgo. I'm a Virgo. It's just the two don't match, because he wanted to be center of attention the whole time. I would never be able to shine, because Leos, when they're in the heart chakra and they have transformed the ego into love, unconditional love, then they're amazing. Everybody wants to be around their light. But when they haven't, it's all about them, me, how big I am. And so, there's not a good or bad sign. It's just, where are they at with their development and their evolution, and have they understood it? And I think awareness and self-awareness has to come in an awful lot, and real interest and eagerness and curiosity. So curiosity about the other person, and also, in order for a relationship to last, you have to feed it and water it and plant like a plant. You have to really, with awareness, with respect, with love, with those little small things, and don't take it as, oh yeah, that's it. It becomes normal, like in so many marriages. I think that's why marriages fail, because people see marriage as a contract. Okay, you signed the contract, therefore you are doing this for me, now I do. It's a contract, it's a business contract. We need to stop this marriage thing, and say, let's start all anew and afresh, and see it as something very special, very blessed, respectful, loving, and really taking the time. What is it that I want in a relationship, and what is it that you want? Are the two matching? Because we don't ask enough questions. And I think that's why we go downhill, because at the beginning there's this physical attraction, and there might be the outside, and might be the sexual attraction, the physical, might be that he has this status and she has that status, but that's not love. And it will only survive if we have love, because love goes through the freckles, through the wrinkles, through all of that. And maybe we put on weight, we change appearance. It will last. And that's what we all want. What we really all want is somebody to see us for who we really are, because we can all slapdash some makeup and stuff.
Yeah.
But
sorry.
Yeah, no problem. All good.
I'll cut that bit out.
All good.
I thought I'd cut it off my phone, but not the computer. Yeah. I'm glad that that's coming right out. Okay, give me 2 seconds and I'll come back in.
No problem.
Well, wow, Sonja, that's a really, really interesting podcast. It's amazing how we get what we need when we need it. This is very topical for me right now. Even today, I'm doing a Deepak Chopra abundance meditation program thing, and today is the day about recognizing the synchronicity of how things just happen in your life, and what they mean is looking into the meaning of things rather than just letting things happen to you. And as you're telling the story, I was thinking, wow, this is just exactly putting into words what I am journaling today. And I don't think there's any coincidence you're number 9 on my podcast. As we were coming into it, I just thought, if I'm to have someone on number 9 in numerology is about expansion, and I just thought, this is going to be a big one. It feels a big one. It's a very powerful podcast, incredibly explained, so succinct. Yeah, I feel very blessed that Stephanie gave the nudge, and yeah, wow, I'm just wow.
Well, thank you.
I would love to do another podcast or more in the future. I think we have a lot to say.
Yes, definitely.
I think these podcasts are not just educational about relationships, but that's not the point of what I wanted to make these about. This is about it's learning about them, it's understanding them, it's what is it about? What is it teaching me? How can I grow from it? Not rather than just making it work for the sake of making it work, is just taking it to that deeper level, because everyone that comes into your life is there to teach you something, whether it's just a one date, whether it's just over a coffee, whether it's
but don't forget,
bumping
you're doing
into
the
them.
same. You're doing the same to others. So you're not just they teaching you something, you're also passing on your energy
into their life.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, it's a two-way system.
It is. And I think in the work that we do, we're here, our purpose is to heal, is to be able to spread the word and touch as many people's lives as we can, because again, you know, we are on a fast track. I've very much sensed that too. And our work is similar but different. And we're just touching it in different parts of the world. But I'm so happy today that we touched it together in this one little moment in time. It's incredible. And so wonderful that we've bumped back into each other's lives again.
Yes, really exciting.
After our little hiatus.
Really lovely. Well, thank you for taking the time, and good luck with your future podcast. I'm looking forward to hear about them and see them, and all the very best, and I hope we see each other in real life very soon.
Well,
that'd be lovely.
Austria is not that far away, and Marbella isn't either.
No, exactly. Lovely. Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sonja. Take care.
You too. Bye.